When Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock step into the gleaming studio of The Pulse with Elena Voss, the crowd buzzes with excitement. Fans clutch handmade signs, their eyes sparkling with anticipation for a cozy reunion between two cinematic legends. But Elena Voss, the host with a reputation for slicing through pleasantries like a sharpened blade, has something else in mind. She's not here to reminisce. She's here to unearth secrets, to spark fireworks, to peel back the polished Hollywood veneer. As the house lights soften and the audience settles, Keanu and Sandra ease into their seats, offering warm waves and easy smiles, blissfully unaware of the ambush awaiting them. Elena, perched in her stark white chair like a queen on a chessboard, clutches a sleek tablet, her fingers tapping rhythmically against its edge. Her sharp green eyes flicker with a hunger that goes beyond mere curiosity. It's the glint of a hunter sizing up her quarry. This won't be a stroll down memory lane. It's poised to become a clash of wills, a raw unraveling of guarded truths. But as Elena prepares to strike, she doesn't suspect that her carefully laid trap might ensnare her instead. Because tonight, Keanu and Sandra will drop a revelation that will echo far beyond the studio walls. Before we dive deeper, let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you love stories that twist and turn like this one, hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow, we've got another tale lined up to keep you on the edge of your seat. The studio itself is a marvel, a sprawling, high-tech space bathed in electric blue and gold hues. Towering LED screens frame the stage, pulsing with vibrant visuals, while the audience, some waving posters like "Keanu Forever" or "Sandra, My Speed Queen," whispers eagerly. The air hums with the faint clatter of headsets and the muffled directives of the crew, a symphony of controlled chaos. At the stage's heart sits Elena's futuristic throne, flanked by two angular chairs for her guests. Keanu, in a charcoal blazer over a simple tee, exudes his trademark calm, his dark hair swept back casually. Sandra, radiant in a deep emerald gown that catches the light with every move, adjusts her posture with a playful grin. Backstage, moments before their entrance, the two share a quiet exchange. "Think she'll go easy on us?" Sandra whispers, smoothing a crease in her dress. Keanu quirks a brow, his voice low and dry. "Elena Voss? Easy isn't in her vocabulary." They chuckle, a shared shield against the unknown. Elena Voss is no ordinary host. With her platinum blonde hair pulled into a severe bun and a crimson blazer that screams authority, she's a force of nature, relentless, incisive, and unapologetic. Her show thrives on tension, on the moments when guests squirm or crack under her gaze. As the pulsing theme music kicks in, the crowd roars, and Elena strides forward, arms outstretched. "Good evening, everyone." Her voice is honeyed steel, cutting through the noise. Tonight, we're in for a treat, two icons, two legends, together again. Let's give a massive welcome to Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. The curtains sweep aside, and the duo steps into the spotlight. Keanu offers an understated nod, his quiet charisma filling the room. Sandra beams, tossing a wink to the front row, igniting another wave of cheers. They settle into their seats, the energy crackling around them. Elena watches, her tablet glowing faintly in her lap, her smile tight and predatory. She notes Keanu's relaxed slump, Sandra's poised elegance, details she'll wield like weapons. The applause dies down, and a charged hush falls over the room. "Welcome to The Pulse," Elena says, her tone smooth but edged. "It's an honor to have you both here." Sandra nods graciously. "Thanks, Elena. This place is incredible." Keanu leans in slightly. "Yeah, good to be here." Elena's smile widens, but it's a mask for what's brewing. "Oh, I'm thrilled. You've both had such extraordinary journeys, blockbusters, accolades, a few stumbles along the way." She lets stumbles hang in the air, a breadcrumb of provocation. The audience titters, sensing the shift. Sandra tilts her head, catching Keanu's eye for a split second. Elena flips through her tablet, feigning nonchalance. Let's start with something light, she says, her gaze locking onto them. What does it mean to be Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock in this moment, right now? It sounds innocent, but the undercurrent is unmistakable, a gauntlet thrown down. Keanu rubs his chin, his voice steady. It's about staying true, I think. Finding your footing in a world that's always shifting. Sandra chimes in, her tone warm but firm. And honoring where we've been, growth, scars, and all. We're still us, just older and maybe a little wiser. The crowd claps, charmed by their sincerity. But Elena's smile doesn't reach her eyes. She taps her tablet, letting the silence stretch. Fascinating, she says at last, her voice dipping. But let's dig deeper. Were you always in control of that journey, or were you just pieces on Hollywood's chessboard, moved wherever the game demanded? The room stills. It's not a question, it's a jab, sharp and deliberate. Sandra's brow flickers with surprise, quickly masked. Keanu's gaze hardens, just for a moment, as he studies Elena like a strategist facing an opponent. Elena presses on, unrelenting. Keanu, take you for instance. You ruled the action scene in the 90s, then faded out, poof, until John Wick brought you back. Was that your plan, or did luck just toss you a lifeline? Keanu doesn't flinch. He takes a measured breath. Life's not a straight line. I took breaks, explored, waited for the right stories. Some I chose, some found me. Elena smirks. So, you're saying you settled for what came along? Sandra jumps in, her laugh light but pointed. Every actor does that sometimes. You don't always get the dream gig when you want it, but you learn from every step. Elena's eyes narrow, zeroing in on Sandra. So, you've done projects you despised? The audience shifts, the tension thickening. Sandra keeps her cool, her smile unwavering. Despised? No. There are things I'd tweak in hindsight, but every role's a brick in the road that got me here. Elena leans forward, her voice cutting. That feels like a polished line, Sandra. Let's try for something real. Keanu shifts, his calm breaking slightly. What's real to you, Elena? His question lands like a quiet thunderclap, catching her off guard. She blinks, then recovers with a tight smile. Just the unfiltered you, Keanu. No script. The crowd murmurs, sensing the power shift. Keanu meets her stare. Unfiltered doesn't mean loud. Truth doesn't need a spotlight to shine. Applause ripples through the room. Elena grips her tablet, her knuckles whitening. She's not done yet. She swipes to a new screen, her expression sharpening. Alright, let's get raw then. Sandra, people whisper you could have been this generation's defining actress. But you leaned into rom-coms, cozy roles. Do you ever wish you chased the gritty, risky stuff instead? Sandra pauses, absorbing the blow. Keanu glances at her, a silent anchor. She exhales, then smiles, a slow, confident curve. You think rom-coms are safe? Try making millions laugh, feel, connect, without a shred of cynicism. That's not cozy, Elena. That's daring in its own way. The audience erupts, clapping fiercely. Elena's jaw tightens. She's losing ground, and she knows it. She swipes again, turning to Keanu. And you? Any regrets over paths taken, or not taken? Her tone hints at something deeper, something she's holding back. Keanu takes his time, his voice low. Every step brought me here. That's enough. Elena's eyes gleam. Even the steps that cost you something big? The room freezes. The question isn't just sharp, it's personal, a knife aimed at his core. Sandra stiffens. Keanu doesn't blink. The game's about to escalate, and no one's backing down. The studio lights pulse faintly as Elena Voss's question hangs in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Even the steps that cost you something big? Her voice is a velvet dagger, soft yet piercing. The audience holds its breath, the silence so thick it feels alive. Keanu Reeves sits motionless, his deep brown eyes locked on Elena, unreadable as a still lake hiding its depths. Sandra Bullock shifts beside him, her fingers tightening briefly on the armrest. She knows this is no longer just an interview, it's a battlefield, and Elena's aiming for blood. Keanu exhales slowly, his calm unshaken but his tone carrying a quiet gravity. Every life has its costs, Elena. Choices we make, ones we don't, they all leave marks. I don't dwell on what's gone. His words are simple, but they land with the weight of experience, a shield against her probing. The crowd erupts, a swell of admiration breaking the tension. Elena hesitates, her tablet glowing under her grip. She hadn't expected him to deflect so effortlessly. But she's not ready to retreat. She adjusts her posture, her crimson blazer catching the light as she pivots. Fair enough, she says, her smile returning, tighter now. But let's talk about that calm, Keanu. The world sees you as this unbreakable figure, grief, loss, you've faced it all, yet here you are, the Zen master of Hollywood. Is that real, or just a mask you've perfected? The question is a trap, baiting him to crack on live TV. Sandra's jaw tightens, she knows how rare it is for Keanu to open that door. He clasps his hands, leaning forward just enough to meet Elena's gaze head-on. Pain's universal, he says, his voice steady but raw. I feel it like anyone else. Loss doesn't make you special, it makes you human. What you do with it, that's what counts. The honesty disarms the room. Even Elena blinks, caught off guard by the lack of armor in his reply. The audience claps again, louder this time, but she recovers fast, swiping her tablet with a flick of her wrist. Touching, she says, her tone dipping into something colder. And you, Sandra? Your films are all about love, on screen, you've had it all. Off screen, though, it's a different story. No fairy tale ending for you. Why's that? The crowd murmurs, a ripple of unease spreading. It's a low blow, and everyone feels it. Keanu's gaze darts to Sandra, a flicker of protectiveness in his eyes. She doesn't flinch, but her smile fades, replaced by a quiet intensity. Then, unexpectedly, she laughs, a soft, deliberate sound that cuts through the tension. You're good, Elena, she says, her voice low but steady. But you're asking the wrong question. It's not about why love didn't stay, it's about what it left behind. Elena tilts her head, sensing an opening. Oh? Enlighten us. Sandra leans forward, her emerald gown shimmering under the lights. I had love, real, messy, beautiful love. A man who saw me, who built a life with me. Brian was my rock, my joy, my home. He's not here anymore, but that doesn't erase what we had. Her voice trembles slightly, but she holds firm. Love doesn't vanish when someone leaves. It stays. It shapes you. So no, Elena, I didn't miss out. I lived it. The studio falls silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Keanu reaches over, his hand resting lightly on hers, a small, unspoken gesture of solidarity. The audience erupts, a standing ovation that shakes the room. Elena's composure falters, her tablet slipping slightly in her lap. She's miscalculated, and she knows it. Sandra's not just holding her ground, she's rewriting the narrative. Keanu's quiet strength and Sandra's raw vulnerability have turned the tables, and Elena's control is slipping through her fingers. She clears her throat, forcing a smile. That's powerful, she manages, swiping her tablet again. But let's shift gears. Keanu, there's a shadow in your story, something you've kept locked away. Something big. Are you ready to let it out tonight? The audience leans in, the air crackling with anticipation. Sandra glances at Keanu, unease flickering in her eyes. Elena's playing her ace, and it's a gamble. Keanu doesn't move, his expression a blank slate. Then, he speaks, his voice low and deliberate. What shadow are we talking about, Elena? It's a counterstrike, forcing her to show her hand. The crowd shifts, intrigued. Elena pauses, her green eyes narrowing as she weighs her next move. You're the nice guy, Keanu, the one everyone adores, who never falters. But nobody's that perfect. Is it all a front? Are we seeing the real you, or just the version you want us to see? It's not a scandal, but it's a challenge to his core, a dare to unravel his mystique. Sandra bristles, sensing the intent. Elena wants to strip away his humanity, not expose a secret. Keanu tilts his head, and then, he laughs. A soft, genuine chuckle that catches everyone off guard. If I'm a front, Elena, I'm a lousy actor off-screen, he says, his tone light but firm. I'm not perfect. I mess up, I doubt, I get pissed off sometimes. I just don't air it out for the world to judge. What's real doesn't need a billboard. The audience roars, clapping fiercely. Elena taps her tablet, her lips thinning. She's losing, and the shift is palpable. Sandra seizes the moment, turning to Elena with a gleam in her eye. Can I ask you something? Elena blinks, thrown off script. Go ahead, she says, wary. Sandra crosses her legs, her voice calm but pointed. You love digging into people, pushing them to break. What's that about? What are you chasing? The crowd gasps, Elena's never been the target before. Her mouth opens, then closes. This isn't about me, she deflects, but her confidence wavers. Maybe it should be, Sandra replies, unrelenting. Keanu leans in, his voice a quiet hammer. People don't care about our masks, Elena. They care about what we've given them, stories, feelings, moments. The studio explodes in applause, a tidal wave of support. Elena exhales, her tablet forgotten on the desk. She's been outmaneuvered, and there's no recovering now. Sandra smirks at Keanu. That was almost fun. He grins back. Almost. Elena regains her footing, turning to the cameras with a forced smile. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, two legends who don't just survive, they redefine. What a night. The crowd leaps to their feet, cheering as the lights dim. Backstage, Elena approaches them, her edge softened. I underestimated you, she admits, almost sheepish. Sandra grins. Most do. Keanu shakes her hand, his smile warm. No hard feelings. Elena nods, a rare hint of respect in her eyes. None taken. The battle's over, but the echoes linger. Keanu and Sandra have turned a gauntlet into a triumph, and they're just getting started. The Pulse studio glows with a restless energy as the applause fades, the audience still buzzing from the verbal sparring between Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, and Elena Voss. The towering LED screens flicker with abstract patterns, casting a kaleidoscope of light across the sleek stage. Elena, her crimson blazer a stark contrast to the cool tones around her, sets her tablet aside, her sharp green eyes glinting with a mix of frustration and determination. She's lost ground, and the shift in power prickles at her pride. Keanu and Sandra, however, sit unfazed, Keanu with his quiet intensity, Sandra with a defiant spark in her gaze. Backstage, the crew exchanges hushed bets on how this will end, their headsets crackling with anticipation. Elena leans forward, her voice slicing through the lingering cheers. All right, you've both proven you can handle the heat, she says, her tone laced with a challenge. But let's talk about the future. Hollywood's a machine, always churning out fresh talent, new narratives. Do you ever worry you're being eclipsed, that your time's running out? It's a brutal question, designed to rattle even the steadiest nerves. The crowd tenses, signs like, "Keanu's timeless," trembling in nervous hands. Sandra arches a brow, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Eclipsed? Elena, you're acting like we're relics in a museum. A ripple of laughter rolls through the audience, easing the strain. But Elena doesn't flinch, her stare unwavering. I'm serious. This industry doesn't wait. Are you afraid of fading into the background? Keanu tilts his head, his voice calm but resolute. Fading's not the point. It's about what sticks with people, not how long the spotlight lasts. Elena blinks, she hadn't expected such a blunt dismissal. Sandra jumps in, her tone playful yet firm. Hollywood loves the next big thing, sure. But audiences? They don't care about trends, they crave what resonates. And that's not tied to a clock. The crowd claps, a swell of agreement rising. Elena taps her fingers on the desk, her composure slipping just enough to notice. So, you're not scared of being forgotten, she presses, doubling down. Keanu's eyes soften, a faint smile breaking through. Everyone fades eventually, that's not failure. It's life. What matters is the echo you leave. Sandra nods, her voice dropping to a quieter register. If we've touched someone, made them laugh, cry, think, then we've already won. Relevance isn't a trophy you keep polishing. The audience leaps to their feet, roaring with approval. Elena exhales sharply, her shoulders stiffening. She's not just outplayed, she's outclassed. She turns to the cameras, her smile tight but professional. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, two voices that refuse to dim. Hollywood may shift, but their mark? That's indelible. The ovation thunders on as the segment cuts, the lights softening to a warm glow. In the dressing room, the air feels lighter, the tension melting away. Sandra kicks off her heels, sinking into a plush gray sofa with a dramatic sigh. Well, that was a ride. Keanu, loosening his blazer, smirks. You good? She nods, stretching her arms. You? He shrugs, settling beside her. Yeah. Survived worse. She laughs, nudging him. True. But I meant it out there, your family, you know. Keanu meets her gaze, his expression softening. I know. Same goes for you. A beat passes, comfortable and familiar. Sandra tilts her head, her voice turning thoughtful. Ever think about how we never teamed up again after Speed? Well, except that lake thing. Keanu chuckles, rubbing the back of his neck. Life's timing's a mystery. Maybe we were too busy dodging buses. She grins, her eyes twinkling. Or maybe I scared you off. He raises a brow. Me? I figured you were the one ducking me. She swats his arm, laughing. Oh, please. Though, confession, I totally had a crush on you back then. Keanu blinks, genuinely surprised. Wait, really? Sandra smirks, leaning back. Yup. You were all brooding and mysterious. But you never noticed. He tilts his head, a playful glint in his eyes. Should I have? She considers it, then shakes her head. Nah. We landed where we're supposed to, something deeper than that. Keanu nods slowly. Yeah, we did. The silence wraps around them, warm and easy, a testament to decades of trust. Sandra shifts, her tone softening. You get it, don't you? The heavy stuff, loss, picking up the pieces. Keanu's gaze drifts, his voice quiet. Yeah. Too well. She reaches over, squeezing his hand briefly. Thanks for being there today. He squeezes back, a faint smile returning. Always. She perks up, clapping her hands. Okay, enough mushy vibes. Let's do something wild. Keanu quirks a brow. Wild like what? She taps her chin, grinning. Let's open a diner, call it Speed Eats. Burgers served in 3 seconds flat. He laughs, a rare, full sound. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Exactly, she says, her enthusiasm infectious. That's the fun part. Keanu shakes his head, still smiling. You're insane. But I'm in. She beams, hopping up and grabbing her bag. Perfect. First stop, food. Tacos? He stands, offering his arm. Tacos. They head out, arm in arm, the chaos of the night fading behind them, no cameras, no pressure, just two friends tethered by time. Back in the studio, Elena lingers by the stage, staring at the empty chairs. A crew member approaches, hesitant. Good show, huh? She nods absently, her mind elsewhere. They're different, she murmurs, almost to herself. The tech shrugs. Legends for a reason. Elena turns away, a flicker of something new in her eyes, not defeat, but a quiet shift. She'd pushed them to the edge, and they'd pushed back, not with anger, but with something stronger. Something she couldn't touch. Outside, Keanu and Sandra step into the crisp night air, the city humming around them. Sandra glances at him. Think we changed her? Keanu shrugs. Maybe. Doesn't matter. She smiles. No, it doesn't. They walk on, their laughter blending with the distant traffic, two souls who've weathered storms, still standing, still connected. And that's more than enough, the Pulse studio hums faintly as the last of the audience filters out, leaving behind a scattering of crumpled signs and a palpable afterglow. The LED screens dim to a soft static, and the stage, once a battleground, feels oddly serene. Elena Voss lingers near her white chair, her crimson blazer now unbuttoned, her sharp edges softened by the night's unexpected turns. She'd come armed with questions to dismantle Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, but they'd flipped the script, leaving her not just defeated but subtly transformed. The crew bustles around her, packing up, but her mind replays the clash, how they'd met her fire with quiet steel. In the dressing room, Keanu and Sandra shed the weight of the spotlight. Sandra flops onto a velvet chaise, tossing her emerald gown's train aside with a groan. That was intense, like dodging paparazzi on steroids. Keanu, peeling off his blazer and settling into an armchair, smirks. Yeah, but we made it. She props herself up on an elbow, studying him. You okay after all that? He nods, his voice low. You? She grins. Better than okay. Felt good to push back. He chuckles. You're a natural. The room falls into a gentle quiet, the kind only old friends can share. Sandra kicks her bare feet up, her tone turning pensive. Ever wonder about what we're leaving behind? All this, the movies, the chaos. Keanu leans back, his gaze drifting to the ceiling. Sometimes. You? She nods, twirling a strand of hair. Yeah. Like, is it enough? The stories we've told, the mess we've lived? He tilts his head, his smile faint but warm. It's more than enough. People don't keep score, they hold on to what moved them. Sandra's eyes soften, a flicker of relief crossing her face. How do you always know the right thing to say? He shrugs, a glint of humor in his stare. Years of dodging dumb questions. She laughs, sitting up. Fair. But seriously, what's next? We can't just sit around waiting for the next Elena Voss to pounce. Keanu rubs his chin, feigning deep thought. Dinner's a start. She rolls her eyes, grinning. I meant big picture, genius. Life stuff. He smirks. More stories, more nights like this. The rest sorts itself out. She nods, satisfied. Good enough for me. They rise, Sandra slipping into sneakers, Keanu slinging his blazer over his shoulder. She hooks her arm through his as they head for the exit. Tacos still on the table? He nods. Always. They step into the night, the city's pulse wrapping around them, no cameras, no scrutiny, just the steady rhythm of their bond. Back inside, Elena watches them go through a window, her expression unreadable. A producer sidles up. Hell of a show, huh? She hums, her voice distant. They're unshakable. He shrugs. That's why they're them. Out on the street, Sandra glances at Keanu, the neon lights painting streaks across her face. Think we rattled her cage? He exhales, a quiet laugh escaping. Maybe a little. Doesn't change who she is. Sandra smirks. Or who we are. They walk on, the chatter of late-night diners and distant horns filling the air. She nudges him. You were solid out there, cool as ever. He quirks a brow. You stole the show. That love bit? Knocked her flat. Sandra shrugs, playful. Had to. She was digging too deep. A comfortable silence settles as they near a taco stand, the scent of grilled onions and lime wafting over. Sandra orders for them, carne asada for her, al pastor for him, while Keanu leans against a lamppost, watching the world go by. She hands him a foil-wrapped taco, her voice softening. You ever miss it? The simpler days? He takes a bite, chewing thoughtfully. Sometimes. But this, us, now, it's better. She nods, her smile wistful. Yeah. Messy, real, better. They eat in companionable quiet, the city alive around them. Sandra wipes salsa from her chin, grinning. Okay, new plan, taco truck empire. Speed tacos. We sling 'em fast, Hollywood style. Keanu laughs, nearly choking. You're relentless. And you love it, she fires back. He concedes with a nod. True. She stretches, tossing her wrapper in a bin. Best friends keep it light, right? His gaze warms. Right. Back at the studio, Elena sits alone, scribbling notes on her tablet. The nights replaying in her head, not as a loss, but a lesson. She'd met her match, and it wasn't about breaking them, it was about what they carried. Strength, not bravado. She mutters to herself, legends don't crack, they bend. The next show would be different, she'd adapt, not relent. Meanwhile, Keanu and Sandra finish their tacos, the night stretching ahead. Sandra yawns. Home? He nods. Home. They part ways with a quick hug, Sandra heading for her car, Keanu for his bike. The city hums on, indifferent to their victory, but they don't need its applause. They've got each other, a legacy of moments, on screen and off, that no question can unravel. Sandra calls over her shoulder, see you for the next round, Zen Master. Keanu revs his engine, grinning. Count on it. He rides off, the roar fading into the night, while Sandra drives away, her laughter lingering in the air. The studio's empty now, lights off, stage bare. But the echo of their words, raw, real, defiant, hangs like a promise. Hollywood may chase the new, but Keanu and Sandra? They're timeless, not because they cling to the past, but because they live fully in the now. And that's a story no host can rewrite. The city sprawls beneath a velvet sky as Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock part ways from their taco-fueled debrief, the night still thrumming with the aftershocks of their clash on the pulse. Sandra's headlights carve through the dark as she drives toward the hills, while Keanu's motorcycle hums along a winding coastal road, the ocean's breath mingling with the roar of his engine. Back at the studio, the last of the crew has clocked out, leaving Elena Voss alone with her thoughts, her tablet screen casting a faint glow across her face. She'd pushed hard, expecting cracks, but found pillars instead. The night's not over, not for any of them. Sandra pulls into her driveway, the quiet of her home a stark contrast to the studio's electric chaos. She kicks off her sneakers, pours a glass of red wine, and steps onto her balcony, the city lights twinkling below like scattered stars. Her mind drifts, not to Elena's barbs, but to Keanu's steady presence beside her. She sips her wine, a smile tugging at her lips. Still got it, she murmurs to herself, the breeze carrying her words away. The interview had been a gauntlet, but together, they'd turned it into something else, a testament, a quiet roar. Miles away, Keanu parks his bike by a cliffside overlook, the Pacific stretching endless and black before him. He pulls off his helmet, letting the salt air hit his face, and sits on a weathered bench, elbows on his knees. The night's replaying in his head, not the questions, but Sandra's fire, her unshakable grace. He'd faced tough rooms before, but with her, it was different, less a fight, more a dance. He chuckles softly, rubbing his jaw. She's something else, he says to the waves, their crash a steady reply. Back at the studio, Elena powers down her tablet, the screen's light fading to black. She leans back in her chair, staring at the empty stage. She'd built her career on unmasking people, peeling back layers for the world to gawk at. But Keanu and Sandra? They'd handed her truths she couldn't twist, simple, solid, human. She grabs her coat, muttering, "They don't break, they build." It's not defeat in her voice, but a grudging awe. She locks up, the click echoing in the silence, and heads into the night, already plotting her next move, sharper, smarter, but maybe a little humbler. Sandra's phone buzzes on the balcony railing, a text from Keanu, "You up?" She grins, typing back, "Barely." "You?" His reply pings, "Cliffside." "Thinking too much." She laughs, dialing him. He picks up on the first ring, his voice warm through the static. "Hey, trouble." She leans on the railing, wineglass in hand. "Hey, philosopher." "Cliffside, huh? Going all brooding poet on me?" He snorts. "Just decompressing. You okay up there?" She sighs, content. "Yeah. Weird night, though. Felt good to fight back together." Keanu nods, though she can't see it, the ocean rumbling in the background. "Yeah. You were a force," threw her off her game. Sandra chuckles. "We both did." That human line? Gold. She didn't know what hit her. He smirks. Team effort. A pause stretches, comfortable, the kind only decades of friendship can weave. She breaks it, her tone softer. "You ever think about how far we've come? From that damn bus to this?" He exhales, his voice low. "All the time. Feels like a lifetime, and a blink." Sandra swirls her wine, the city's hum faint below. "Do you think they get it? The audience, the world, what we've carried to get here?" Keanu's quiet for a beat, then says, "Some do. The ones who feel it, they get it. That's what sticks." She nods, her throat tightening slightly. "Yeah. Like Brian. Like your losses. They're not just scars, they're us." His breath catches, just for a second. "Exactly. We don't hide we live She smiles, bittersweet. "And we're still here. Still us." The line hums with their shared silence, a thread unbroken by time or distance. Sandra perks up, mischief creeping in. "Okay, enough deep stuff. New idea, movie comeback. Us, on a boat this time. Speed, high seas." Keanu laughs, the sound rolling over the waves. "You steering? We're doomed." She gasps, mock offended. Excuse me, I'd rock that captain's hat. He grins. Fine. I'll be the guy fixing the engine, again. Deal, she says, laughing. We pitch it tomorrow. He shakes his head, still smiling. You're relentless. And you're stuck with me, she quips. Best friend tax. His voice softens. Wouldn't trade it. She finishes her wine, setting the glass down. Good. Now go home, it's late, and I need my beauty sleep. He stands, stretching. Yes, ma'am. Night, Sandy. Night, Kia, she replies, hanging up. She lingers on the balcony, the city sprawling beneath her, feeling lighter than she has in years. Keanu mounts his bike, the engine rumbling to life. He takes one last look at the ocean, its vastness a mirror to the night's revelations. He'd faced Elena's fire, but it was Sandra's spark that lit the way. He rides off, the road unfurling like a promise, no destination, just motion, the way he likes it. Back at her place, Sandra heads inside, the quiet wrapping around her like a hug. She glances at a framed photo, her and Brian, laughing, and whispers, "We made it." Then she's off to bed, the day's weight lifting with every step. The studio stands dark, a silent witness to their victory. Elena's gone, plotting her next showdown, but Keanu and Sandra? They're beyond her reach, not because they won, but because they don't need to prove it. Their legacy's not in the applause or the headlines, it's in the lives they've touched, the quiet strength they carry, the friendship that endures. Hollywood can chase its next star, but these two? They shine on their own terms, forever.